Welcome to But For Real, a variety show podcast co-hosted by two therapists who also happen to be loudmouth feminists. I'm Valerie, your resident elder millennial child-free cat lady.
And I'm Emerson, your resident chronically online Gen Z brat. And on the show, we'll serve up a new episode every other week that will take you on a wild ride through the cultural zeitgeist, mental health, and beyond.
You'll definitely laugh and TBH sometimes maybe cry a little because this is a silly and serious show.
Buckle up, my friends, and let's get into today's episode.
Here we are. We're back. Oh my gosh. We got a little bit ahead of schedule.
Sure.
Which I would love for that to be the norm.
Well,
we'll see. We'll see.
Knowing us, we'll see.
But it feels like we haven't done this in 100 years.
Right. It's been a while since we've had our party of two. Kiki.
I know. And it's springtime.
Thank you, God.
What are you into?
I'm so into the trees that have like you're driving down White Bridge and like by the day's end, there's just these trees. Sorry if you're not in Nashville, but like and I'm sure I should know. They like are a blossom, obviously, of some kind.
Cherry blossoms?
I mean, but my brain is like, surely it's that.
Dogwood cherry blossom.
But I don't want to assume tree. Totally. I'm like, so I've just really been enjoying just like these gorgeous blossoms. I've been doing some like plant stuff recently. So I'm just like, wait, the world is like coming back alive. Yeah. I'm alive. Yeah. The sun is out. I can go lizard outside.
Truly. Like,
so,
nothing reminds me of the fact that we are animals.
Oh.
Than the fucking sun coming back and being like, oh yeah, we're all alive.
I can't tell you how many times I was sending and also receiving the meme that was like, oh my God, I realized that I have seasonal depression because the sun comes out in February and it feels like I just popped a molly. I was like, no.
Totally. Love it.
Now it's time for our first segment, Tea and Crumpets, where we tell you what we can't stop talking about this week.
Emerson, what's your tea?
And so, unfortunately, I've been the most annoying person on the planet about this. Adolescence on Netflix. Have you heard the tea so far?
Literally not at all.
Oh, thank God. So you'll have such fresh perspective. I'm so excited. 4-part miniseries, each episode an hour a piece.
Okay.
I don't want to spoil too much because I think it's a really, really
Going
great.
blindish.
Yes.
Okay.
It is not a whodunit. Everyone is kind of me being pissed. I'm like, everyone's looking at it wrong. It's not a whodunit. It's a why they done it. Why they done it. And it is explicitly exploring themes of red pill ideology, the manosphere, toxic masculinity, and just like our children of today. It is an insanely good watch. I literally can't stop thinking and talking about it. So
spooky
discourse, like 10 being like the worst house down boots.
Yeah.
I would say like a 6.
Okay, I can do a 6.
I think it's fine.
Yeah.
It's intense. I wouldn't say it's scary. It's intense. The only thing I'll tell you to just give more perspective is each of these episodes are filmed on one continuous shot. It adds such a layer because you feel like you're in
there.
It. Yes.
Blair Witch style.
Yes.
And do you even know?
Well, I live near Adams, Tennessee, so well, yes. But yes, very intense.
I'm stoked now.
This is my baby reindeer of the year,
which I also never saw.
Oh my God! Where this is social commentary. Like this isn't a whodunit. Yeah. It is a very important piece of media. So I think you'd live.
Stoked. Okay.
What about you?
My thing is, it is a cautious recommendation.
Okay.
Because theoretically, I'm like, this is the kind of thing I am so into. In practice, so it's called Lights On.
Okay.
And it is, do not call it a podcast. It is an audio documentary.
Well.
In 11 chapters. Neither is it an audio book. And I'm thinking, why did she... It's interesting. I feel like maybe they'll address that at some point because I've just like never heard the term.
No.
It feels more appropriate for some of these things that are like a contained project.
Sure.
Right? Especially if they're like diving deep into a subject. Kind of makes sense to use that term as opposed to you think podcast and you think that's sort of like it's ongoing or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
So it's an audio documentary available wherever you get your podcasts and audiobooks.
Sure.
by Annika Harris. And I put on here, cue the meme of the math lady. We all love her. We're going to come back to her in a second. Because I like to think of myself as a somewhat intelligent person.
Bitch, you are.
A lot of it is like extremely over my head. I'm also like, you know, in a doctoral program right now, like literally reading chapters about consciousness.
Yes.
But this is like conversations about consciousness that are like, so it is, that's why it's a cautious recommendation is like, and I do feel that she probably could have condensed this into about half the length.
Okay,
I'm
fair.
only about halfway through it. It's like 11 and plus hours.
Damn.
So broken into chapters.
Okay.
But the cool thing is she does bring on, it's not just her monologuing. She's got kind of like a sidecar bro and then brings in all these fascinating philosophers and scientists all talking about consciousness. And it is really crazy to think about how like the philosophers are only coming at consciousness from like their angle and the scientists and like neuroscience people are only really coming at it from their angle, and they don't do a great job at kind of integrating those perspectives. So it's just really interesting. So even though it is quite confusing and esoteric, I do think that there are going to be a lot of gems that come out of it that I'm going to keep percolating on.
Yeah.
And also I decided there needs to be a drinking game where every time the phrase consciousness is fundamental is said, I will take a shot and I will be passed out.
Honey, pump that stomach.
So when I put the math lady meme on here, I was like, I need to, citation. Where's the citation? I'm a student, right? So I was like, who the fuck is this bitch? I have been using her for God knows how long. I know nothing about this blonde woman.
Well, sure.
So we're going to tell you right now here today. Her name is Renata Sora.
Okay.
She is a Brazilian actress. This particular clip, and you know the one we're talking about, it's the lady with the math equations all over her face, comes from a scene from the Brazilian soap opera Senhora de Destino. 2004 is that episode. And she plays a character called Nazaré Tedesco, who is one of the most famous villains in the history of Brazilian telenovelas.
Well, I'll be fucking damned.
I know.
You learn something new every day.
I know.
I love it.
Now it's time for Step Into My Office, where you get advice from your favorite professionally qualified, personally peculiar therapist.
So here is what our listener is writing in with. They say, Dear M and Val, I have a friend I used to be super close with. We went through breakups, bad haircuts, and toxic job eras together. But now I just don't know. We barely talk. I always feel like I'm the one reaching out, and I'm starting to wonder if we're just different people now. Is it normal for friendships to fizzle like this? Should I bring it up? Or just let it fade out quietly and grieve it like a situationship? Sincerely, left on red. Oh, relatable.
Yeah, I feel like I've been this person and I've been on the other end of this as well. Like at different points of my lifespan so far.
Yeah. What do you want to offer to this listener?
I feel like it's just a really, I don't know how old you are, listener, and I don't think what we'll kind of touch on in the themes of friendship today is that I feel like it doesn't even really matter sometimes, like where you are in your life, this can happen. I think especially around like milestone-oriented things in life. But I think it's kind of up to you. Is it normal? Yes. Like I think universally, yes. If it's a friendship that you think is one that, you know, that the two of you could continue to like be in alignment with one another, and it's like something that you would want to like explore with that person and like both of you would be open to it, sure. And or sometimes I wonder if it's just like okay to let people go. You never know when people like may come back around.
Right.
I don't know. I just like think sometimes it's okay to let people go, love them from afar, and not like do it in like a spiteful kind of way or feel like, you know, I don't know, it's like, oh, I've been ghosted or something like that. I think sometimes that's not always the intent.
Yeah, like there's certainly not always like maliciousness, right? And I get that it sucks because I have definitely been on the side of feeling like this listener and like it's quite possible there have been people who feel like I was the friend who stopped reaching out and I just don't even know because maybe it wasn't intentional. Maybe it just sort of felt like a natural sort of thing that happened. But yeah, I think what I realized as someone who had felt like I've been in this position a lot of times, which especially if you move, make a significant move as an adult, you will realize, because it's like you have no friends in your new city. No. So you're like trying to keep up with all your friends from back there, but they're just living their normal lives. Sure. And so it's, you really see which friends are willing to invest in that long distance friendship and some are not. It doesn't mean that they like hate you or are a bad person. It's just some people are not going to do that. But yeah, what I decided was just like, because I used to, every time I would go back to Austin, I'd be like, setting up like 10 little friend dates and whatever. And then those are people who I'd try to keep in touch with between visits, and it wasn't really, mutual. And so I just stopped reaching out. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to be in the city, but if we're not friends, I don't need to see them.
No, and don't like need to put a ton of pressure on yourself or like what that relationship was at a specific time. The whole like grieve it like a situationship, like sure. Like I think it's really normal to have grief around a relationship that like no longer is what it was at a very specific time of your life. Yeah. So yeah, I think like take this at your own pace, understand, how you think and feel about the situation. If it feels like a situation that a productive conversation could have come from it and it would feel mutual, and if it's not, then like okay, and that's fine.
Yeah. And I would also say that on the flip side of that, sometimes it's worth a conversation because especially if it feels like, oh, well, this person, maybe they had a kid or there were life circumstances that kind of aligned with, the distance happening, that sometimes it really is like, oh, shit, like I've missed you too. And I just haven't. So I've had that happen too. We'll get more into that later. But, if it feels worth a conversation, like have it. You just don't, can't guarantee how it's going to turn out.
Yeah. Take care, listener. Yeah. Love ya.
Oh, wait. I have to throw in the what is the cliche of like, sometimes they're just there for a season.
Oh, yeah, people are here for seasons.
Right, which is like true and also annoying.
Sure, for sure. I think I even put that in here at some point where I was like, yeah, people are here for seasons and also that sucks.
Yep.
And now it's time for the DSM. In our DSM, all varieties of dysfunction, spiraling, and meltdowns are welcome. In this segment, we break down complicated concepts and common misconceptions about mental health, well-being, and tell you what we really think.
Okay, our whole DSM today, as we've already teased, seeking/building adult friendships, relationships in these trifling-ass times, everyone. It's a weird time of existence. Why is this so hard now from the universal collective perspective? We don't have built-in friendship funnels. Oof. You don't have forced proximity with your college roommates or your college town or even your workplace where, I feel like some industries are very much like enmeshed with certain people and others maybe are not. It just depends also who you are in all of this. Adult life does not throw you into the same places with people that have the exact same schedule as you. Yeah. You wouldn't believe the amount of times I'm like in the Google Calendar trying to do a meetup and I'm like, this is weird. And then I'm like, no, it's not. It's just like a normal part of life and prioritization. Time and emotional fatigue. We're all tired. I feel like the entire universe is echoing, I am tired in some capacity. So, between your job and your family, and if you have a romantic partner or partnerships that you're balancing, friendship often gets downgraded, reprioritized, pushed aside, fear of being perceived. We're all in such like a hyper perceptive state of society right now. So, having a little bit of a vulnerability hangover. Did I overshare too much with this person? Do they think I'm being weird? I hear adults all the time saying, I don't want to go forge like this connection because what if they think I'm weird? And I'm like, well, you are. Lovingly, I am too.
People should know that I'm wearing a shirt right now that says it's three cats dancing together and it says at the function being weird and off-putting.
Well, sure.
Own your weird, guys.
Yes. People want you to be weird. The right weird people also want to be weird with you. And then, just those phase of life discrepancies. I literally put, that's where people are here for the season. So shifting values and life stages creates that natural and sometimes painful distance and change in a relationship. And so, you know, of course, we're the representative of the generations, of course. So our kind of takes on friendship, I think I put for Gen Z and below for what I know right now. Mm-hmm. I talk about this with my best friend Roxanne all the time. I always say that I was deprived of club culture. Like, I never got to be up in the club wearing a fucking peplum and shoes in the dead of winter and like a high-heeled booty, like listening to fucking T-Pain. Like, I'm pissed that I never got that experience. And my generation, unfortunately, we could not have that experience because everyone is like hyper-focused on being weird, or everything is cringe to Gen Z and below, you know? So I just think of, like, y'all were up in the club doing whatever the fuck with a fucking Nokia. No one was pressed. No one was pressed about whatever. You all just did stuff, and who, you know, got the pictures on the camera, literally, in the aftermath. Yeah. So that's just not a thing that's present right now. And, you know, a lot more online interactions happen. Online friendships and relationships are not bad. They are incredibly worthy and are great and celebrated. And so, but there's less third spaces, if we talk about this all the time, where people are actually going and having in-person interactions, pleasant interactions with others. And so it's just not happening as frequently for us. What about y'all? The Millens.
So I was thinking about it and I was like, truly, as embarrassing as it might be, like, we still use Facebook to be like, yo, what is she doing? What's she up to? And I'm sure, you know, there's variation person to person, et cetera.
Sure.
But like, we do use Facebook and Instagram to kind of keep up with each other's lives from a distance. And I think a lot of us, especially those of us who are thinking critically, are concerned about still being in this metaverse. Sure. And we want to leave, but like, I feel like, well, I'd be sad to leave because I do feel some tether of connection to some people where if without this, I would lose that.
Yeah.
And I get, we don't have to maintain. Fine, we don't have to, but I still, there's some value in that connection for me, and I think for a lot of us. And also, of course, being a millennial, many of my peers have been having kids for some time now. And there are some people who, you know, manage to really retain their friendships well when they have kids. And I know that is not an easy task because, I mean, your whole life turns upside down. So I totally get that there are going to be times where, you know, someone has kids and their friendships just change. And like, that's okay. We don't have to fight that. But I will say that it's really made me value again, I have some kids with friends who are wonderful and they make time for friends and like, it's great. But I also really value my child-free friends because we're just having a different kind of experience. Yeah. So I want to just shout out because tonight is our 1-year anniversary book club of the Nashville Child-Free Book Club. And they're amazing women. And now I think we've got some not women who are joining, which is cool.
Okay.
But yeah, it's important to find community where you feel like, you know, people get you.
Yeah. Yeah. I threw just like a little bullet down too about like intergenerational relationships, like something that I feel like we think is rare, but like, I don't know. I linked a piece and we'll link it in the show notes by Andrea Havor. Sorry if I'm saying your name wrong, girl. But she just wrote this really sweet piece about this like friendship trio she has. They call themselves like the 20-40-60, where like each of them like fall within that like respective decade, and just like the power of intergenerational relationships. Like my best friend Roxanne, she's an elder millennial, and I don't know, just that like what we learn and take from one another has just been such a cool experience. I never expected to like have friends that were older than me, and like the same way that I feel about our relationship, where we just like are so silly together, and then I'm also like, but what about this? And like, I don't know, we can just like talk about stuff. And I just think those friendships are really valuable if you're open to, you know, being friends with someone that you feel like could be really different than you just because of age. But you'd be so surprised. I'm so surprised at like the ways that we like are so different and then similar. And same with me and Roxy too. It's just been a really, interesting part of friendship so far in my life. And it's really valuable. So definitely check that article out because I think it's a good one.
I love it. Yeah. And so let's talk about like the hard stuff, the emotional experiences that show up in friendship. You mentioned earlier about like, you know, friendship kind of breakups and the situationships. And it's hard because we don't have a cultural template for that, right? Like when we decide that we no longer feel good being sort of romantically partnered with someone, there is a breakup, and breakups can be painful, but they can also be very clarifying and lead to really important conversation and discernment. Whereas those friendships seem to rarely happen, or those conversations rarely happen with friendships. And so they don't always need to. Like sometimes maybe that sort of slow fade is just natural and it can happen. But I think we need to normalize these sort of conversations. And God, I'm thinking of a long-term client who was in a really toxic friendship. And that friend was just core to the friend group. And so there was no getting away from this person. And man, did we have a lot of conversations about like what a breakup would look like. And like, is this even possible? And it's hard because it's not normalized, but I hope that it can be. Also another thing that I see a lot, and I've caught myself in this before, but is this like scarcity mindset. Like, I don't have more close friends, and like getting into a spiral. And what does that mean about me? And like, look at, the comparison of like, look at these girls on Instagram who like, I know this girl from college and she's on a trip with 5 other women or whatever. And that, it's, yes, there are going to be people out there and you might see that and go like, man, I want that. As I always say, envy is inspiration in disguise. Like if you like that, what are you doing to nurture close relationships in your life? And so I've definitely been in moments where I've been feeling that scarcity and that kind of spiral, and then going, okay, what am I going to do about it? And
what am I doing to foster something?
Yes, and I have made those calls, and I have sent those texts, and I have invested in more friendships, and it's been really nice. And of course, there's identity shifts that can happen. My gosh, like how many friendships have ended in the last 8 years? Because people are going like, okay, I am fine disagreeing with my friends about a lot of things.
Sure.
And there are some things that just feel like non-negotiable. I cannot.
Basic human rights I can't compromise. I'm so sorry.
Exactly. So, lots of things can impact friendship, including identity. And then some other messy shit, like where do we draw the line between what expectations we hold of a friend or a friendship versus like, it's probably not realistic to have 0 expectations and just be like, oh, well, if they cancel on me for a 5th time in a row, like, it's fine. People have their own lives. Like, yeah, they do. But at what point do you piece out of that? Because you don't feel like it's mutually, respectful and reciprocal. So that's a hard line because obviously too many expectations or unspoken expectations can also be really harmful.
Yeah.
Trauma bonding. When you meet people, like I met some people the other day who were like, oh yeah, we worked in the psych hospital together and we were thick as thieves,
through and through.
Trauma bonded for life.
Some of my most messy fucking relationships have been from a trauma bond and they've gone bad.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Is like sometimes what I've found in connections like that is it can forge really deep relationships and even lasting with people with whom you likely never would have just made friends with. But also, if there's not a real substantive foundation there for friendship, it can just turn really dark, right? Love bombing can happen in friendships, just like other relationships. And I do think we have to be careful because I think people throw that term around a lot. And it's like, well, are we assuming some things? Like sometimes things, whether romantic or platonic, start off like really exciting, like, oh my God, we're gonna, and what if you just find out that with more time together, you're just not as compatible as you thought? Then one person might be walking around going, this person love bombed me. And so we don't know what their motives or intentions were, but that can happen. Of course, our friendships can bring out all of our attachment shit. I always like to say, I mean, we can lean more in one direction or another, but depending on the friendship and what's happening in it, I might feel more anxious in this one or more avoidant in this one. And it's just interesting to notice. And then, of course, people pleasing, like own your own boundaries, right? Don't allow people pleasing to make you build resentment towards someone when maybe they're not even asking for what you're doing. And you could like stop over functioning as much and not be so resentful.
Yes. All great points. So how the fuck do we make this work?
How?
What are the hows? What do we do? Intentionality over frequency. I think people get caught on this a lot about the amount of times or the amount of space that you're sharing.
Yeah.
Deep connection really can happen monthly, seasonally, every week, or whatever it is. I think it's trying to shift towards presence versus like just being focused on proximity. Some of my deepest relationships are with people that like don't live close to me at all. And that's, you know, really important. Practicing self-awareness takes you far. Like dating, which we put a lot of, not all, but, you know, if you're at that point of your life, you put a lot of effort and vulnerability and things into that. Friendship is the same. Yeah. I get really bugged when people kind of treat friendship like a lower tier, like love experience or something, and think that friendship is very blasé. I think if you desire deep connection or you desire different types of friendship, it takes different kinds of effort and different kinds of people. So, you know, you'll have to kind of have your self-awareness. What are my patterns? What do I know? What's the emotional shit that I maybe bring into some of this? And then also, do I like handle rejection well? Do I have rejection sensitivity? Because that is going to happen. You know, one connection may not work out. That doesn't bring forth just like this whole doom pile of like, I'm not worth it and this person's terrible. You know, we need to just kind of have a little bit of perspective in both and here. And again, just reflecting on your own strengths. Do you need to be a better texter backer? Do I need to like actually schedule something in a calendar with someone? And that's the way that I like honor their time and mine. Reaching out is always awkward. Just do it anyways. There's something, you know, like you have to just do it. Again, strike that balance. If you're reaching out and, you know, something seems like it's not really working or the person isn't responding, okay. Also, maybe don't like write that person off forever or think it's like a really solid one trick thing. Sometimes it's not going to work out and that person isn't going to say, hey, I'm not interested. They're just not going to respond. And that can feel shitty and like not feel great. And also don't get hyper fixated on that one thing, because then you may be missing out on a ton of other like potential feelings and experiences with other people if you're just closing yourself in on like a very few instances and not having a lot of like flexibility.
Right. Like I've definitely heard people talk about those scenarios where they did get burned in a few friendships, and I've been there for sure. But it's like, it's not to sound insensitive, but it's like, well, you got to pick yourself up and dust yourself off.
Well,
like,
what you gonna do?
You can be mad about it. You can grieve it. Like you can feel what you need to feel. But if what you do is just write a story that like that's going to be what happens every time, like you're really limiting yourself.
Yeah, the perspective isn't helping you be open. If you've decided something and you only stick to that one story.
Right. So be the inviter, and you don't need some like perfect plan, right? My best friend and I, what we usually do is go walk in the woods. And, you know, it's free and it's lovely and we can be there for however long we want. It's not like a restaurant where it's like, we have now finished the meal.
We must leave.
And now we must pay and leave. Yeah, right? Like
we must stand in the parking lot.
Yeah. And I love this idea of like challenging the catch-up friendships. That like, would it be like to have the experience of just come over to my house, sit on the couch, rot with me, let's watch a show, let's have some snacks. What if we worked out together? What if we didn't wait until we had 3 hours free on the calendar and we just said, hey, do you want to like hop over to Taco Bell? Like whatever it is, like
come sit in my car and have a Baja Blast.
And that was something that I even talked about recently with Liz, my best friend, of like, you know, I think sometimes I don't reach out enough because I'm like, well, if it's shitty weather, we're not going to go walking. So what are we going to do? Just go to a freaking restaurant? And it's like, well, I could just come sit on your couch and be fine. Yeah.
I'm a huge believer in couch friends.
Couch friends.
Me and my best friend Val, me and Roxanne, we're couch friends.
Oh my God, this is my new thing. I want more couch friends. I love it. But like only a few. I don't need like 20 couch friends.
We don't need bazillion couch friends. Yeah. But we need a few.
Exactly. And that kind of connects to like this, you don't need a best friend immediately. I mean, it took us years to get there and even like a little kind of space between in there. And not everyone is going to need to be that inner circle, right? Like I value having a few people in that inner circle and then a few more people in the circle outside of that, and a few more people in that circle outside of that, right? Looking for like those enjoyable interactions. You don't need to share all of your interests and values with every single person if they're like on your, outer friendship circle. So having that community approach to friendship, like there are some friends where I only ever see them in groups.
Sure.
And that feels fine, right? I don't need to like try to force this one-on-one friendship. Also look for the green flags, right? We always are talking red flags, but ease, mutual efforts, feeling emotionally safe, laughing.
Yes.
I mean, I can think of some of the times that like me and Liz have had our best like bonding moments, and we're just cackling.
Oh my God. Gut
I mean, you and me,
oh
like
my
just
God.
losing our minds. Oh my God. And yeah, I love that. People that inspire you to be the best version of you, all of that, and revisit dormant connections. Like I did this with someone a year ago, and I'm so glad, because I was just like, I always kind of felt like this girl could have been a good friend, and we lost touch. And I just was like, hey, would you like want to try again? Yeah. And now we've like hung out several times, and it's lovely. Cool. And I had to take that courage to reach out and be vulnerable in that way.
Reaching out is awkward, but you did it.
But I did. And, keep doing things outside the box if you're looking to find new connections. So whether it be book club, like I've met so many cool women in this book club who I would not have met otherwise. D&D, networking event. Like people shit on networking events, and I'm like, girl, that's how I met like several of my friends. Yeah. So yeah, you never know.
Yeah. But for real.
Trying
to make new friends is universally awkward. And it is across, I think, any point of the lifespan of what I know so far in my 25 years. And again, friendship is not lower tier love. It deserves attention and care and vulnerability. And you, listeners, whoever you are and wherever you are deserving of great friendship. Whatever that looks like.
That's right.
For you. Go get a crew.
Also, check out our blog post. It will be linked in the show notes that one of our team members, Sam DiMartino, wrote. It's just a link to some awesome resources if you're looking for some IRL connections. Most of them are in both Nashville and other cities and beyond. Indeed.
And now, our musical segment. Now that's what I call Okay, where Emerson and I each share a song with each other each week as representatives of our respective generations. We tell you a little bit about the song or artist, and then we press pause, we share the song with each other, and then we come back for our live reactions. And we're capturing it all on a Spotify playlist linked in the show notes for you.
So the track that I am bringing today, I'm like, surely you've heard this.
And so I'm kind of scratching my head, but surely I have.
You have, because they play it at all kinds of, it is Graduation, parentheses, Friends Forever by Vitamin C. So we will watch a little snip of that. But let's bring the background. This song came out in 2000, so you would have been just fresh out the utero. I would have been in like 8th grade. Vitamin C, who is she? She is Colleen Ann Fitzpatrick.
Well.
And she wrote this song as a response to how many friends drift apart soon after graduating high school. Aww. Yeah. Also, Hello Time, Vitamin C, who you'll see how she appeared in the year 2000, is 55. My God, how? Okay, so she had a few singles, though this was really a one-hit wonder situation. Sure. She was in a few small movie appearances. But March 2012, she was made VP of Music at Nickelodeon. And since 2019, she's been a music exec at Netflix. So get it, girlfriend?
Okay, Vitamin C. Everyone, we were just cutting up over that. The music video
Go and watch. Yes.
Gagged me.
Go and watch it, because the girl, the main character, she gets her some in the end. She gets that courage.
With that neck beard or whatever. Oh, honey.
All right, what you got?
So I just did like a cute, cheesy one. I just remember being a kid and like in my room in China listening to this and being like, wait, friendship is beautiful and eternal, and I love being friends with people. So it was Count on Me by Bruno Mars. Okay. From his debut studio album, Doo-Wops and Hooligans. Wow. 25 years old and I still listen to that album. Okay. It feels nostalgic to me. It's, it's Bruno, the first one. So kind of cute.
Okay. I don't know that I've heard this one,
Really?
so we'll find out. Yeah, I'm a fan. I was like, definitely hadn't heard that.
Sure.
And super uplifting.
Yeah.
Highly recommend.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yay!
And now for our last segment of the show, welcome to Fire Dumpster Phoenix. It is rough out there, y'all, and we need all the hope we can get. It's time to go dumpster diving for some positive news and rise from the leftover Happy Meal ashes together.
What you got?
Okay, so I thought this was really cool. Of course, always from the Good News Network. Hey, like, I should be paying y'all at this point. Groundbreaking gene therapy treatment cured someone's sickle cell anemia.
Oh, shit.
And I had a few kids that I went to school with that had sickle cell,
Okay.
and I remember learning about it in middle school, and so it's just kind of like wedged itself in my brain ever since. So, 21-year-old Sebastian Bozil, so sorry if I said your name wrong, is the first New Yorker to receive Lyfgenia treatment for sickle cell anemia. This treatment takes a sample of a patient's bone marrow and integrates a healthy amount of adult hemoglobin from a donor, which then helps transport oxygen throughout the body, which is the whole part with sickle cell. And Sebastian has been seemingly cured since this one-time treatment in December of 2024, which was causing him skin ulcers, joint pain, severe chest pain. I'm just like, oh.
Whoa.
Wow. And sickle cell anemia, I remember reading a while back, it often, I think most of the cases are amongst people that are African American, which is really interesting. And so, I just was like, oh, wait, look at this, 21-year-old, going and getting, life-saving treatment and not being in pain. Cool.
And you know what creates those life-saving treatments? Research trials. And you know how research trials happen? A lot through federal grant funding.
That part.
It's just really great how, all these studies just shut the fuck down.
Yes.
But we're talking about good news right now. So, at least Sebastian, and hopefully now that has already been discovered, that can be replicated again. So my story is there was a dolphin trapped in a Florida waterway that galvanized a cleanup team that is now called the Waterway Warriors. So Hurricane Milton, and this comes, of course, from the Monitor, reported by Stephanie Haynes. Hurricane Milton last October, a dolphin got trapped in a crab trap, tangled up, and that had been dislodged near where this woman, Nicole Killian, keeps all of her supplies for her stand-up paddleboard business. So a team from Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation came out to work on freeing the dolphin. Meanwhile, she and her husband were like, we gotta help. There's shit. There are refrigerators and mattresses and 2x4s and all this shit just washed up on shore, but also in the water, just waiting to trap more dolphins, right? So they use the metaphor, it was like this hurricane just threw shit everywhere, like a toddler throwing a Lego set. Just stuff everywhere. The mangroves that she guides tourists through were just filled with plastic bags and drywall and all this debris from destroyed homes. And so the marine life is very threatened, right?
Sure.
So, and mangroves especially are that ecosystem's natural filter. So they really wanted to help. They decided to organize a group to paddle along on the paddleboards while removing trash, and really tapped into, and I loved how Stephanie wrote this, their own ecosystem of people who love the water, the Waterway Warriors, because they are like an army of environmentalists.
Sure.
So I loved that. And it really, they're now doing quarterly cleanups and monthly coffee and conversation meetup to work with other nature groups and get people involved. And there was 2 cleanups already. And I loved just how, even with people going through the worst things, in this tight-knit community, these neighbors are coming together and really finding a deep way to help each other.
So
and
awesome.
the animals. I know. Love that. Thanks, guys. All right.
That's it for this time.
Yeah, this was so much fun.
Yes.
We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
This has been another episode of But For Real, produced by Valerie Martin and Emerson Ryder and edited by Sean Conklin. But For Real is a Gaia Center production. The Gaia Center offers individual, couples, and group therapy for clients across Tennessee and in person in our Nashville office, as well as coaching for clients worldwide. For show notes or to learn more about our work, visit GaiaCenter.co or find us on Instagram at The Gaia Center and at butforrealpod. But For Real is intended for education and entertainment and is not a substitute for mental health treatment. Also, since we host this podcast primarily as humans rather than clinicians, we are not shy here about sharing our opinions on everything from snacks and movies to politicians and social issues. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. See you next time, bestie.